African.
Good evening to you wherever you are. It is the 27th day of March 2021. We are bringing you a recap of all the top stories making headlines in Ghana. We are live from our studios here, number 48 Swanika Street in Abilingpe with News Recap. News Recap is a recap of all the top stories that have made headlines from Monday through to Friday. My name is Bless Headman Aloma. So now coming up in the headlines. Now, father of embattled students denied admission at ACHIMOTA school speaks. That's Raswad Menkrabia speaking on the issue. We'll bring you a story about that. And then still on the local front, Education Minister Dr. Yao Osei Educhum hauled to Parliament over unapproved textbooks. And then in business, Finance Minister designate quizzed over Ghana's national debt stock. We will be bringing you these stories and other stories in international, entertainment and sport in the next 60 minutes. Do stay. Finance Minister designate Ken Ofori-Atta has answered questions on the controversial AJAPA deal. Appearing before the appointment committee for vetting, Ken Ofori-Atta was grilled over varied issues, including Bank of Ghana financial deals with government. First, Minority Leader Haruna Idrisu demanded clarity on the controversial AJAPA royalties deal. Or the controversial AJAPA royalties deal. I beg your pardon. There's more.
AJAPA, what's the necessity of AJAPA, what's the justification, what do you need money for?
Try to illustrate that since I got in on Saturday, we have launched the roadshow for the largest bond issue in our country yesterday, and to remarkable responses. We have also, during that period, begun the issue of the merger of economic planning and us, the setup of Obatampa, etc. And then, of course, beginning with appropriations and preparing for
AJAPA. How much money are you seeking to monetize, and for what purpose? What do you need that money for? And I just heard you, Chairman, his opening remarks that since he arrived, he's launched the roadshow for the highest ever. In what capacity did you launch the roadshow?
Minister designate and representative of the president.
So I have taken note of that. Minister designate launching raising $5.5 billion in the name of the Republic. I've taken judicial notice of that function and the activity. Minister,
I also have a letter as President's representative.
Still on AJAPA.
I hope that was noted also.
What do you need the money for?
Yeah. Mr. Chairman, I think with regards to AJAPA, there are a few things that we need to assure ourselves of. I think first and foremost, the President had said that we resubmit it to Parliament, and so that shall be done, which then opens up all of the issues that have been brought to bear. But I think one thing I need to note is that truly, I mean, the basis of that transaction was an act that was passed, which was thoroughly debated, and we did not really move away from any edicts of that act. I think it is all of us looking at the state of the economy of a new normal, which seems to be global with regards to debt. And we're looking to interject equity into the way in which the country grows. But if you look at the powers of the fund, which this august House pass Act 978(3). The fund may create and hold equity interests in a special purpose vehicle, procure the listing of the special purpose vehicle on any reputable stock exchange, assign or transfer any rights of its mineral income to a special purpose vehicle, assign, transfer, or, so I think we are in the right course. But the challenge for all of us is, as you look at the new normal in which there seems to be quite a bit of debt by all countries, what do we do with our natural resources to leverage it into equity? And I think that's a question we have to face. Now, as to how that is mobilized, the issues we contend with, I think that's the reason why President wants us to submit, so that if there are issues around that. But philosophically, I hope we are all going to come to terms with the reality of diversifying how we capitalize and fund our transformation, which we intend.
On the second day of the vetting, Minority Chief Whip Mohamed Mubarak Muntaka grilled Ufuriata over Mackenzie transactions with the Ghana Revenue Authority.
From my point, I would like to understand whether A, consultants are not able to help entities, or B, there's a feeling of self-dealing. Is that why these questions are being asked? Or D, they are incompetent for that? Because I get nervous when one begins to throw different issues leading to a certain image that will hurt maybe the objectives of that. So I would like some clarity on what this is about.
Well, Mr. Chairman, unfortunately, I do the asking, you do the answering. You don't, unfortunately, you don't get the opportunity to ask me. I get the opportunity to ask you. But I'm sure as we go along, you'll get to know exactly what I want to get. One of the things I want to find out from you is that the Mackenzie consultancy with GRA, how was it procured?
That will be the process that GRA put into place for that to occur.
Was it sole source? Was it publicly advertised? Were they competitive bidding to arrive at Mackenzie as the consultancy to deal with GRA with regards to what you wanted to do? There's mobile revenue to boost revenue collection. Was what procedure was used in procuring Mackenzie?
I'll have to get advice on that from GRA.
Do you know how much was involved in the consultancy with Mackenzie with GRA?
I don't have the rates with me.
You've not heard that it's about $18.5 billion US. You've not heard that? You are the finance minister. GRA works under you. They procure for consultancy worth $18.5 million, and the finance minister is not aware.
I don't know the efficacy of that number, but I can check on that.
Since Mackenzie engaged GRA, has the revenue target set for Mackenzie to be able to achieve, was it realized?
I think if you look at the growth of revenue in GRA, there's been improvements in there as to whether they have met sometimes the high expectations that we have exacted on them. No, but I think in 2020 we were quite impressed with what they did given the COVID impact of their performance.
I just want to find out the nominee, the board of GRA is usually composed by the finance minister, am I right?
Yes, Yes, but I usually have discussions with the presidency on some of these important areas.
But basically what it means is that the board cannot be composed without your input.
That's correct.
Who is NS Akore?
NS Akore is a technical advisor.
Now, away from Parliament, let's do some stories on one of the world's most essential commodities, water. Now, World Water Day is celebrated annually to raise awareness on issues of access to potable water. As part of activities commemorating the day, our news team told Odumase to interact with residents on their lack of access to the essential commodity and came through with this report.
The core focus of the observance of World Water Day is to support the achievement of Sustainable Development Goal 6, water and sanitation for all by 2030. The theme for this year's celebration is valuing water. Water has enormous and complex value for our households, food, culture, health, education, economics, and the integrity of our natural environment. However, there are still vulnerable communities who do not have access to potable and affordable water resources, especially the residents of Odumase and adjoining communities. For residents of Odumase, access to potable water supply has brought challenges and difficulties. The only source of potable water is that from water tankers who supply them with water at an expensive fee.
Oh, area had it. Yes, a pipe about it, but near baby annual. Me baby, I meet a beanie, I say. Intia cotto. Kefan say, bow black one, 1 cedi. Baby ton 1 cedi, baby ton 80 pesos. And a gallon, Cassianus yellow one, and so be ton 80 pesos, a bit on 1 cedi.
A day without water from the water suppliers, they depend on wells for survival. Due to the absence of water pipelines in the community, most residents have created reservoirs for themselves to store rainwater.
Odumase anu ye ni nsuo. Ye nya nsuo a ebia ye to ni bucket or poly tank mu. Ye wo bula ebia nso na ebe to e na ebe gu mama ye. Se nsuo nto a ye nya nsuo. Yanyan nsuo num yanyan nsuo mfanye hwe enti ade ye bre won nsuo mpa enti se mbebua ye dia ye pensuo pa na ena hia wo Odumase ha.
Some residents at Sonitra, a neighboring community, also explained that they heavily depend on water tankers to supply them with water. While in this COVID-19 era, schools in the vicinity are worried over the challenge of walking a long distance to get water, which affects their academic activities.
It affects us in other ways, like in case we are in need of water to perform our duty like this, we suffer. We are now going to the back of sanitary well for water. It's very effective. And also when we are coming to wash our hands, in this, as we are not in normal times here. We are in the COVID-19, so we need water, safety water to protect ourselves, like to wash our hands, and also drinking water to our children like this. They need water to survive because water is everything. Before we get water, unless we call some other people to bring us water, and that one too. Day to day having different places to go. We suffer past.
First no nso no eto a gada wo faako na yakosa. E se anso de e bi nso no ya to asase ni nyina nso de ye ni bi wa ha. Polytank nso e na ye kokoto obi ato egu ho na so. E bo odi be ma wo no e na obeto nso de ni bi wa ha.
Now, meanwhile, members of parliament also added their voices to calls for government to improve access to potable water supply as they took to the floor of parliament and gave account of the true states of access to water supply in their constituencies. Member of Parliament for Adan, Comfort Doyogansa, on her part, blamed the Ghana Water Company for the water challenges in over 60% of communities in her constituency. There's more.
And for the household that live at Aminapa, Totope, Pute, Alavanyo, Fantevikope, and the rest, far away from fresh water, water is life. All these communities in Adan constituency that have been without fresh water for decades, however, through my initiative as their member of parliament, these communities now connected to potable water. But water does not flow. Mr. Speaker, but water does not flow. In the course of my duty on monitoring and evaluation, I was at Ghana Water Company to inquire on the reason that they shifted the blame on stable electricity. So who is in charge? How did we get here? Mr. Speaker, the suffering of the people from this community due to lack of water is due to human error. Why are we so wicked to ourselves? Why should people suffer because of somebody's negligence? Mr. Speaker, it is only when we recognize the benefit of water that we can value it and safeguard it. The importance of water cannot be overemphasized. If for nothing at all, the world has witnessed the usefulness of water during this current pandemic, where regular washing of hands with soap under running water has become an essential measure of containing the spread of the virus. It will surprise you to know that about 60% of communities in Adan constituency have no access to water. Mr. Speaker, where did we go wrong? People from Totope, Pute, Alavanyo, Sochopo, Kaja, Dechakope, Asibekope, Amlako, Kopehim, Lufenya, Kakichakope, Balekope, Batana, and the rest are suffering. The taps are there, but water is not flowing. Therefore, Mr. Speaker, as I conclude, I would like to draw our attention to the fact that we are only 9 years away from achieving the Sustainable Development Goal 6, water and sanitation for all by 2030. Looking at the data of 2.2 billion people in the world without access to fresh water, I would say we have a long way to go in providing this basic necessity to the people, especially to the rural dwellers in our country.
Now, still on water, Sanitation Minister Cecilia Dapai is blaming government's inability to expand access to potable water on the menace of illegal mining locally called Galamsey. According to the minister, the pollution of water bodies as a result of that practice has affected water production in the country. There is more on the story.
Our water ecosystems are not in a healthy state as we would like to have them. In our beloved country, it is common knowledge that illegal mining, Galamsey, in particular, has affected the quality of water bodies, especially within the southwestern river system, which includes the Tano, Bia, and Cobra River basins, as well as the Pra Basin and its Ofin and Brim tributaries. Ghana Water has had on 1 or 2 occasions to close down the system in some areas because of the activities of these evil galamseyers. The proportion of rivers with fairly good ambient water quality or better at the end of 2016 was 39%. The proportion increased to 53% at the end of 2018, which was attributed mainly to the fight against illegal mining. The proportion further improved to 57.8% in 2019, but reversed to 56.6% at the end of 2020. The result is that the water intake facilities are partially or completely non-operational, which is a major public health and economic concern.
Now, let's head back to Parliament, where the legislators have expressed worry over the inability of the Speaker of Parliament, Alban Kingsford Sumana Bagwin, to constitute the Parliamentary Service Board. This, according to the members, is infringing the dictates of the Constitution and have demanded the board to be constituted with urgency.
In connection with the Constitution of the Parliamentary Service Board. Mr. Speaker, this is the House of Parliament of the Republic of Ghana, which has oversight responsibility on the executives. And Mr. Speaker, many a time we chastise the executive for not constituting boards of certain corporations or agencies. And we always exert pressure to make sure that those boards are constituted. Mr. Speaker, if you come to the Parliament of Ghana, not forming the Parliamentary Service Board will be a serious breach of the Constitution of Ghana. Mr. Speaker, and I want to come under Order 124B, which says that there shall be a Parliamentary Service Board, which shall consist of A, the Speaker as chairman, B, 4 other members, all of whom shall be appointed by the Speaker, acting in accordance with the advice of a committee of Parliament. Article 124. Mr. Speaker, Parliament is a creature of the Constitution. And the Constitution says there must be a Parliamentary Service Board. And Mr. Speaker, you've been given the mandate to constitute this board. This is the 8th or 9th week of the meeting of this House. Mr. Speaker, this board has not been constituted. However, we are going to be chastising the President and the executives for not constituting boards of corporations. Mr. Speaker, he who preaches equity must come with clean hands. And I think that not forming this board will be perceived as a serious constitutional breach. Mr. Speaker, and as a creator of the Constitution, we must not be doing things that will be seen or perceived to be breaching the Constitution itself. When you go to our standing orders, the recommendations of the committee must come in the form of a report. We may be adjourning maybe next week. And when we adjourn next week, we may be coming back in the middle of May. The Speaker, if this board is not constituted, and we happen to adjourn on the 31st of this month, and go and we are to come back around May, meaning for a whole half year, Parliament will be operating without a Parliamentary Service Board. The Speaker, meanwhile, there are key institutional arrangements that this board should come to do. So I think it's a serious issue that should have done first before we proceeded even with this work. The Speaker, I want to end by saying that this House, the leadership of which me myself as a member, I'm a member, must do whatever is possible to assist you to form the Parliamentary Service Board by Friday.
This Parliament has elected a Speaker. So, Mr. Speaker, and this Parliament has a clerk in office. Exactly what is it that is frustrating the process of appointing or nominating and approving the 4 other members that must be appointed by Mr. Speaker? So, Mr. Speaker, again, ultimate responsibility in this matter lies in you, because you are the one that the Constitution says should appoint, but on the advice of this committee. This House has appointed the committee. So, Mr. Speaker, what is frustrating you? What is making it impossible for you
Now, Education Minister Dr. Yawosei Duchum was in Parliament to answer questions on how unapproved textbooks found their way to schools across the country. Now, the minister, in his response, indicated that the National Council for Curriculum and Assessment, NACA, did not approve the textbooks this morning.
On the market, which contain bigoted content and relates to our ethnic group, on the 14th of March 2021. These are the History of Ghana textbook tray published by Bedu in Cancer Publications and authored by Bedu in Cancer and Nelly Martinson Enim. Golden English Basic 4 published by New Golden Publications and authored by Ochre Befi Alexander. Mr. Speaker, the Ministry of Education would like to state unequivocally that NACA has not approved these books for use in schools. On the 15th of March 2021, NACA issued a press release confirming the unapproved status of these books and asked the publishers to withdraw them from the market with immediate effect. It might interest the House to know that History of Ghana textbook tray was submitted to NACA on the 12th of July 2020 to go through assessment and approval process. After the first phase of the process, the publisher was asked to do further work on the book based on the assessor's report. NACA did not hear from the publisher until the 8th of January 2021 when they resubmitted the book. Golden English Basic 4 was submitted for assessment on the 5th of March 2021. Assessment on this particular book is yet to begin. Mr. Speaker, below is an excerpt from the letter NACA wrote to Bedun Cancer Publications on the status of their book of the submission made by the New Golden Publication. History of Ghana Book Tray, published by Bedun Cancer Publications. Submission. This book was submitted to NACA on 24 July 2020 by Gershon Azazu, a worker from Bedun Cancer Publications, with a covering letter dated 23 July 2020 and signed by Regina Bedu in Cancer. Report. The first assessment report was issued to Bedu in Cancer Publications on 25 January 2020. The covering letter captioned pending approval requested the publisher to update the material for resubmission. Resubmission. The book was resubmitted on 8 January 2021 for verification. Remarks. NACA received a verification report on the status of the book from the external chief verifier on Friday, 19th March 2021. Mr. Speaker, the report from the chief verifier indicates that the content of the book has factual inaccuracies. In addition, pictorial representation do not largely depict respectable African and Ghanaian image. Neither do they correlate with the content. Furthermore, the book has language issues. The chief verifier therefore advised the publisher to use historical research reference materials to correct factual inaccuracies and improve upon the quality of the book. Golden English Basic 4, published by New Golden Publications. Submission. This book was submitted on 5th March 2021 by Muntalis Salaman, a worker from New Golden Publications, with a forwarding letter dated 4th March 2021 and signed by Ochrebefi Alexander. Remarks. The book is yet to be assigned to assessors. Mr. Speaker.
So that was Education Minister stating emphatically that the infamous textbook, which contained ethnocentric, bigotry-laden content, was indeed unapproved. Now, let's still focus on matters of education, where father of one of the affected children in the Achimota school admission controversy, Raswad Minkrabia, has expressed his frustrations on the matter in an interview on the couch hosted by Amaprat this morning.
When we were told that it's time for us to go through the processing of the documents of the school, we took him there 3 or 4 days before the 18th. And because they didn't have, you see, when they're actually communicating with the parents, they communicate with the parents in a condescending kind of a way. So basic little details they don't explain, and they don't care whether they explain it properly or not. So you find that a few sheets and information was left out. So my child's mother kept going back and forth, oh, go photocopy this, and they have to go in town to photocopy this and do so many things. So it took them 3 days to actually process the paper because of the inefficiency. So after those 3 days, we finally completed, then we were told to come back on the 18th to bring the child, bring all the items and stuff like that to actually have them put in storage, because he's a day student, he's not boarding. So they was going to put it in storage until he comes back on the official date when the school's supposed to start, which is, I think, is this Monday. When he brought all the items and went to the table or the desk or whatever it was that they were actually doing it, I heard him telling his mother that you're not allowed in this school because you have dreadlocks. I was shocked. I couldn't believe it, to be honest. I was real, but even though those 3 days I were there before, we kept hearing it from different parents. I even met a teacher there who has beautiful dreadlocks, and she has 3 children, and none of those children can go to that school. And she's teaching other people's children, and none of her children can go to that school. It's so shameful. So when I heard that, I said, no, let me go up there and find out what's happening. Because, I mean, my reference point on where I'm coming from, these things are unheard of. Whether I'm in the UK, I'm in the United States, whether the person is black or white, and this kind of discrimination is taking place, I'm going to react. It's unusual for me. Very, very unusual. Maybe it's not that unfamiliar to a lot of people here, but for me personally, because of where I grew up and the kind of racism and prejudice that we have seen, it just normally trigger off about me immediately. So I went up there to find out what was going on. And they said, sir, your child is not welcome in this school because of his dreadlocks.
Who said this?
They have some staff there that was actually processing the children. I don't even know the name or whether they are teachers or
their
what.
Position.
Yes, I didn't know the position or anything. Okay. So I said, who authorizes? They said you have to go to the administration. So I went up there to see the headmistress. And they kept telling me, oh, she's in a meeting. I keep going back and forth, oh, she's in a meeting, she's in a meeting. I always a whole other time trying to do that. So I said, okay, let me try the assistant headmaster. So I went downstairs to see the assistant headmaster, and I finally got a chance to see him. And I asked him, is it true that my child cannot come here because of his dreadlocks? And he said yes. I said, my child has...
Now, as the rains set in, residents of Panama, Asylum Down and Odona, all areas prone to flood, are calling on government to urgently dredge and repair damaged drains in their respective communities. Now, yours sincerely was in these communities to assess the situation. There's more.
Greater Accra region, residents sisters to ever rock the country occurred. Kwame Nkrumah Circle and its environs experienced a disaster of floods and fire driven by both natural and human factors. The devastating event consequently claimed the lives of over 150 Ghanaians and damaged properties worth millions of Ghana cedis. One might be tempted to believe that as a people, lessons have been drawn from the unfortunate disaster, but the reverse has been the case. Major drains in the capital supposed to transport rainwater to prevent flooding are left in the state of disrepair, putting lives and properties in danger. Such is the situation at Panama, a suburb of Kokomlimli in the Greater Accra region. Residents say their homes are submerged whenever there is heavy rainfall because the drain, which stretches from Silver Star in the airport area and connects to the Odo drain, has not served any meaningful purpose after portions of the slabs were washed away during the floods.
From since 2016, in Sonutua Ebufasusa a fan crofon niama, but yengu obiara at least all farm plants and nasa buy and nasa bibisa.
The situation is even worse at Asylum Down in the Clote Korle constituency. The only drain constructed to transport rainwater from Nima and its environs has been left in its damaged state for several years, posing serious threats to lives and properties. Patrick Ajomi, a resident of the area, says the drain has been in that condition for more than 2 decades. He adds that whenever it rains, he loses his valuables.
At times, this thing takes people's lives. And we around here, we don't find it easy at all when it rains. At times, as you see us working over here, whenever we do something that cannot be in there and we leave it outside, before we come the next day, the flood has taken it away.
Sami says rainwater has raised down several structures of his.
When it rains, it is forceful. From Nima, and the other one also from the other side, coming down here. So in fact, both government has come. We pray with them. I think the last time they started this, after then it broke again. Can you see the construction over there? It's also break again. Up to now, nobody has come. So we have destroyed all the building that was. There are some people who, some of the rooms were willed to them, and today they've lost their property.
People living along the banks of the Odo River, one of the hotspots, recounts the horrible experience they go through when it rains heavily. Adwa Jimfua, a trader at the Odona market, says she has to pack her wares as soon as the weather is cloudy. She adds that government has paid lip service to their situation.
Eyade afibia nsuo tobre duru hodia ahane nyina tumiri na nsuo astart say na mutumi baha ebebusa yensem se nsuo start yede a obia ne ho obaha ebebusa yensem wa ha nti nsuo ne yire tumi fie ne nyina akọ ni nipadua kra bi wu ewa ha nti nsuo yire dia ahane de enya kora amaye ame de nsuo ne se mu na ya na mapake na meko.
Now, so those were some residents of Asylum Down, Odona and Panama crying to government to, as a matter of urgency, repair and dredge broken drains in their various communities. Now, residents of Gonsei and Tomefa and the Wijagbawe and Gas South municipalities, respectively, are accusing government of neglect in providing access to one of the basic necessities of life, water. Residents say they have no option than to depend on ponds and rivers as sources of potable water. These concerns came to light when the Water Resources Commission organized a media tour to the communities to bring to fore water challenges in the two communities. My colleague Sadia Seidu was there for Pan-African Television News and reports.
As part of activities to mark the World Water Day, the Water Resource Commission organized a tour to some communities in the Greater Accra region who lack access to potable water. For residents of Gbawe Gonse in the Weja Gbawe Municipal Assembly and Tomefa in the Gasaus Municipality, access to potable water supply has become a daily struggle. Residents are dependent on a pond and a river as daily source of water. Both communities depend on a pond and a river respectively. The Sustainable Development Goal 6 is to ensure access to water and sanitation for all by 2030. However, the situation at Gbawe Gonse and Tomefa does not indicate Ghana's commitment towards attaining these goals. At Gonse, the only source of water for the people is a pond. Residents say fetching water from the pond comes with its own challenges. Several people, according to them, had drowned over the years drawing water from the pond. Some members have also resorted to buying water from water tankers, which they claim is expensive. The assemblyman for the area, Fiagbeji Rubin Ofori, tells me the water from the pond is not safe for drinking, but residents have no choice but to depend on it.
We need to guide it, and I can tell you that this water, when it's dry season, it rather flow much more than how it is now. So if something can be done so that they can use the water to produce good drinking water for the people of Gonse and Juma and its surrounding, I'll be very glad. But they need to protect it too, because mistakenly when you fall into it, we can't get you alive.
will get you dead. Down oneself, unless we perform some rite before you can get your dead body to bury. Without performing any rituals, we can't get the dead body.
Mami Adjoa, a resident, say the situation is difficult and they want something done about it.
And so someday I want to say our house you knew so.
The water challenge in our community is a difficult one for us. The water we have here is very salty, and so we are unable to wash or cook with it. Some of us have resorted to buying water, but it is expensive. So we are pleading on government to help us.
The
situation in Tomefa was no different from Gonse community. Residents say they get their water from the Densu River, which is a stone throw from the community. According to Edward Lawete, an opinion leader in the community, they have been using water from the river, and even though it gives them bilharzia, they have no choice since it is the only source of water in the community.
The time we came here, we have been drinking this water since 1980. And when we were drinking it, it brought us bilharzia.
The chief of the community, Francis Tete Doche, confirmed the situation. I will be very happy if government comes to our aid because we buy water every day.
Now, in 2020, the president cut short for the reconstruction of the La General Hospital, a year after construction works have not commenced on the state-of-the-art facility, which was expected to provide accessible healthcare to residents of La and its environs. There's more.
The facility, previously known as La Polyclinic, was instituted in 1963 but became fully operational in 1965 to cater for the health needs of people of Osu, Labadi, Teshi and Nungwa and neighboring communities. It was shut down in 2020 to pave way for its refurbishment into a modern health institution. Construction works have not commenced, leaving the site overgrown with weeds. This development.
On the local front, we have some business updates coming up next. Finance Minister Designate Ken Ofori-Atta has given assurance government will put in measures to stop illicit gold export.
I want to find out from the minister. It's reported that clearly Ghana is losing over 2.5 billion US dollars every year from the mining sector as a result of illicit financial flow. I mean, the whole of this week, a number of radio stations were discussing this. What measures is he going to put in place, if given the nod, to help deal with this illicit financial flow?
Mr. Chairman, thank you very much. I think the issue of illicit financial flows is maybe 50, 70 billion for Africa, and therefore, in our view, might be easily 4 or 5 billion in all sorts of ways for Ghana, that we need to put things into place to do that. So first you have the small sort of gold mining area in which we need to tighten exactly how the gold is procured and how it is taken out. So if you look at example of cocoa board's structure, should we be looking at something similar to the small-scale gold industry so that we fund our capacity to be able to buy all the gold and therefore be responsible for export to cut out that because it is alleged that the amount of gold that, let's say, Dubai or India will record from Ghana is very different from our exports. So maybe the Cocoa Marketing Board model may be an interesting one to pursue to cut out that. Then on the bigger gold mining companies, basically ensuring that the assaying, etc., is witnessed. And we know exactly, we've experimented with all sorts of undercover agents, etc. And I think we should be ready to come up with new policies for these areas.
Now, that's how we wrap up on business. Let's do some international stories. On March 22nd, thousands of Bolivian citizens and members of various social movements and trade unions took to the streets of the 9 capitals of the country's 9 departments. The citizens held massive marches to demand justice for the Sacaba and Sencata massacres and numerous other human rights violations committed by the coup-installed regime under the rule of de facto president Jeanine Áñez. That's more.
They demanded that all those responsible for the crimes perpetrated after the coup d'etat on November 2019 against the democratically elected president Evo Morales be punished. Dancing and singing, waving national and indigenous Wifala flags, the demonstrators expressed their support for the progressive government of President Luis Arce. They rejected the accusations of the country's right-wing forces and affirmed that an ex and a former minister's arrest are part of justice and not acts of political persecution or revenge. Áñez and 2 of her former ministers, Alvaro Coimbra, the former Justice Minister, and Rodrigo Guzman, the former Energy Minister, were arrested on March 13 for their involvement in the coup. On March 14, a criminal investigating judge ordered 4 months of preventive detention for them, considering that there was a high risk of their escape and that they could influence important witnesses if they remain free. On March 20, the second criminal chamber of a departmental court of La Paz ruled to extend the preventive detention for them from 4 to 6 months. They have been charged with terrorism, sedition and conspiracy crimes, which left 36 people dead and 804 injured, while thousands were illegally detained and hundreds were harassed, kidnapped, tortured and persecuted. On March 15, 2 other former government officials were arrested. General Pastor Mendieta, former chief of the armed forces, for his participation in the 2019 coup, and Major Freddy Vargas, former police chief who wrongly granted promotions to officers supporting Áñez's regime. Since March 16, the country has been witnessing demonstrations for and against the arrest of coup regime officials. Bolivia's right-wing organizations have been holding rallies against the arrest in the Santa Cruz department
and few cities, while the indigenous, peasant, and women's organizations have been marching across the country in defense of democracy and justice for victims of a coup regime. Yesterday's nationwide mobilization was called for by the Pact of Unity, a national alliance of grassroots organizations in Bolivia, on March 19. Trade unions such as the Confederación Sindical Única de Trabajadores Campesinos de Bolivia, the Sindical de Comunidades Interculturales de Bolivia, the Confederation of Indigenous Peasant Women of Bolivia, Bartolina Cesar, the National Council of ALOS, and Macas del Culasuya, 6 confederations of the Tropic of Cochabamba, and the Central Obraba Boliviana, Bolivia's Trade Union Center, supported and joined the call. The leaders of the organizations condemned the right-wing protests and their rejection of investigations carried out by the prosecutor's office and denounced them as attempts to destabilize the current government of the movement towards socialism. Eba Rogers, the Executive National Secretary of the CUTCB, questioned the opposition for rejecting judicial proceedings against former authorities. They are inciting conflict from their homes. Why don't they talk to Bolivian city, Bolivian social organizations? We demand justice and peace in Bolivia, Rogers told the Agencia Bolivia de Información. Likewise, Flora Agriola, the Executive Secretary of the Peasant Women Confederation, Bartolina Cesar, stressed that the cases should not go unpunished and that investigations must continue. So many brothers have been lost to restore democracy. For them, we ask for justice. Justice for those comrades who were battered in Sakaba, Cochabamba, here in Senkata, so many died, said Agriola. Similarly, several international leaders and organizations rejected the interference in the internal affairs of Bolivia by the Secretary General of the Organizations of American States, OAS, Luis Almagro.
Gratitude to the People's Dispatch for our international stories. If you just joined, you're watching News Recap here on Pan-African Television with me, Bless Hetman Alomasa. We are bringing you a recap of all the top stories that have made headlines throughout the week. Now, let's do some sports updates where Ghana has qualified for next year's Nations Cup tournament following a 1-1 draw with South Africa in Johannesburg with a game to spare. Now, the 4-time champions are level on points with South Africa in Group C, but boasts of a superior head-to-head record. There's more.
The South Africans played spiritedly against Ghana, but spent numerous goal-scoring opportunities that came their way. Their talisman, Percy Tau, terrorized the visitors' backline, but Razak Balora produced 2 world-class saves to deny the home side from scoring. The duo of Mubarak Wakaso and Ebenezer Free Aqua struggled to cope with the pace and delectable passing of the South Africans in midfield, whilst debutants Emmanuel Jesse and Kwame Opoku, who spearheaded the attack, were a pale shadow of themselves. Coach C.K. Akono replaced Kwame Opoku with Osman Bukari, and the substitution quickly paid off as Ghana drew first blood through Mohamed Kudus in the 49th minute. Luck eluded Ghana as the home side drew parity 3 minutes later through Percy Tau, who netted his 4th of the campaign. Ghana, who will host Sao Tome and Principe in the final group of qualifiers on March 28, 2021, are the 10th country through the finals next year, joining host Cameroon, holders Algeria, Guinea, Tunisia, Senegal, Egypt, Burkina Faso, Mali, and the Comoros Islands. The South Africans.
Still on the Black Stars, head coach for the Ghana male senior national team, Charles Kwablan Akono, has noted that he is happy with the performance of his players in their 1-1 stalemate against South Africa in the Africa Cup of Nations qualifiers. There's more.
The duo of Mubarak Wakaso. The Black Stars played as guests of Bafana at the First National Bank Stadium in a Group C clash. At the end of the KG encounter in Johannesburg, both sides shared the spoils. On the match day, Mohamed Kudus scored for Ghana, while Percy Tau equalized for South Africa. The Black Stars have qualified for the Nations Cup to be staged in Cameroon next year, courtesy of the draw. In a post-match interview, Coach Siki Akono was elated with the result and the performance of his players.
Again, it became tight. The pressure was on. But again, team organization, I think the boys did very so well. The captain, Wakaso, was able to do a lot of work, not just playing, but of course organizing the team. And so they show a lot of character, good character. We came out with a draw, which we are very, very happy about. I believe in Sudan, like I said, we've discussed it already, and I hope and wish them well to qualify.
Well, that's all for sports. We have entertainment updates coming up next. Now, the month of March has been set aside to adulate Ghana's unique culture and heritage, which is lavishly embossed on the lips of all and sundry. Today, our focus is on the Asafotufiam Festival, celebrated by the Gardan Maize this morning.
The Asafotufiam Festival is celebrated by the chiefs and people of Adan in the Adan east of the Greater Accra region of Ghana. The event, which is celebrated in the first week of August every year, is derived from the word Asafotufiami, which in Danme means firing of musketry. The Asafotu are companies of warriors who fire the muskets in celebration. The Danmes fought a lot of wars in a bid to establish a territory for their people. Most famous among these wars are the Catamans War of 1826, the Glover War of 1876, the invasion by the Anglos in 1770, and the Battle of Nonibe in 1750. The people of Ada managed to withstand all these attacks and survive the wars, leading to the successful establishment and survival of the Ada kingdom. As the wars became frequent, rituals were put in place to welcome brave soldiers and war heroes back home. Some of these rituals included feet washing and the firing of musketry to announce their arrival. In the 1900s, with no wars to fight or attacks from other tribes, the rituals performed to welcome these brave soldiers were abolished as they were no longer needed. The people, however, still felt the need to put in place a festival to celebrate their soldiers, ancestors, and past chiefs who all contributed to the successful establishment of Ada. This paved the way for the establishment of the Asafotufiam Festival as a replacement for the welcoming rituals performed for returning soldiers. To reenact the historic events of the Adan people, the warriors dress in traditional battle attire and stage a mock battle. It is also a time when the young men are introduced to warfare. There are two Asaf companies within the Ada state, namely Akomfode and Asoko. Membership of
Well, that's how we draw curtains on this evening's edition of News Recap with me, Bless Headman Alomaso. Now, do all to connect with us on our social media platforms, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, at Pan African Television. We will be bringing you news commentaries and updates as and when they happen. Many thanks for watching, and do enjoy the rest of the weekend.